tonight's topic we're going to talk about, and really what we're in kind of a series of events, and we may not always cover exactly what's on um, the the meetup agenda because I just haven't had time to go up and go ahead and update the topics. But the we're basically going to be doing a search for the truth together as a collaborative group. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the facts surrounding the Pretti killing, and we're going to like basically I'll make some assertions about facts, and then I'll ask for a poll and say, do you guys agree this is a fact or not? Anything that has a significant like disputed value, or even if there are a few people that are willing to dispute it, then I will try to dig into the minority, quite frankly, because the minority is the group that we should hear the most from. Because if the rest of people already agree with the fact, then we want to hear why would someone disagree with it. That's who the rest of us have the most to learn from. That doesn't mean they're more right. It just means that we have more to learn from, most of us have more to learn from listening to the minority. So, um, that said, I'm going to share my screen now and go through a couple of fact assertions. And oh, by the way, just as I think some people, like, let's see how this goes. Like, some people have asked for breakout sessions. I'm very open to doing breakout sessions. So if anyone wants a breakout session, just ask and I'll open a breakout session. We just need to have moderators for them. So I know one person here that volunteered to moderate a breakout session, so I'm very happy to do that. I think it helps people to speak in, some people prefer to speak in smaller groups, and that's fine. So that said,
All right.
yeah,
Um, if we are going to see Google Doc on the screen as a share, can you make it, can you
bigger.
zoom in?
Yes.
Yeah, we can actually read the
Thank you.
words.
Yeah. Is that better?
And, yeah, maybe you can do full screen, like click on the top left green button on the window.
Oh yeah, I can do it that way too.
Maybe, yeah, that helps a little bit. I think that's good.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So basically the federal agent's perspective was that Preddy approached agents with a handgun. I forget the exact phrase that Christy Nome used, but more or less that he was trying to kill the agents.
Maximum damage.
What's that?
She said he intended to do maximum damage.
Yeah, he was intending to do maximum damage. So, does anyone dispute that that's the official narrative from the federal government? And I'm going to put a quick poll up. Let me see if I can, shoot. How am I going to get to polls again? Here we go. Let me see if I can get better at launching these polls. All right, so here's a quick poll. Does anyone agree? This is like true means you agree that is the federal narrative. Does anyone disagree that's the federal narrative? Okay. So some people disagree that that's the federal narrative. We have two. Um, let's do a chat.
It's at least Christy Noem's take, which
Okay.
I think is incredibly reckless.
So
Bovino as well.
I guess the assertion, yeah. So I guess that then we would have to ask like who else is representing the federal government. So Kristi Noem is kind of the head of, the agency running the show there. So um but apparently the latest that I heard was that Stephen Miller was the one that gave her the order to say that, but she was still the one that said it and was the mouthpiece for the government. So I guess let's go to the people who we got five people who dissented and three that are not sure. So I'm going to end that poll, um, share the results, so that you guys can see them. I will always share the results because I believe in transparency, unlike our federal government who is blocking these investigations, but we'll get to that later. Um, so, um, so for the people who don't believe that that's the federal narrative, that Preddy was basically a threat to the ICE agents, I'm curious, what makes you believe that the federal government doesn't believe that Pretti was a threat to the ICE agents? Does anyone want to speak up out of the five people that said that that's not the federal narrative, that he was a Vinny, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to discount what Kristi Noem said. And Bavino, I watched his press conference. I don't remember it exactly, but he seemed pretty straightforward. But I would say the official government response came from Caroline Levitt and Donald Trump. Obviously, they're at the top of the food chain. And their response was wait until the investigation is completed.
I didn't see his response, so that's why I'm looking up for a quote. So his initial posts, it looks like, defended the federal agents and urged support for immigration enforcement, saying let ICE do their job. And he criticized Minnesota officials for their handling of the situation and suggested police were not allowed to protect federal agents. I don't know what that has to do with it. Police were not allowed to protect federal
All right.
agents.
So what they're saying there is my understanding is from listening to Walls and Fry and from Bavino is that the local police have responsibility for the riots. The local police are not showing up, and the police, my understanding is that they've been told to stand down, and they haven't been showing up. So it leaves the federal law enforcement agents who were supposed to be executing on immigration to have to deal with the rioters when in fact that responsibility falls to local police and they haven't been
Could I
showing
ask
up.
Okay,
a
so
question?
we're getting a whole new set of assertions here. So let's stick to the federal response. So Trump later told reporters that he shouldn't have been carrying a gun at the scene and reiterated you can't walk in with guns. Essentially to me, and I'm curious, Vinny, if you would you say that is that like part of what you think is and now it looks like where is, can you give a source for your quote from Donald Trump saying that we should wait until there's an investigation?
He said that today
Okay.
after he got caught.
Okay.
I
So
don't have you know
It was,
where
it
I
was,
stand on this.
yeah, I'm sorry. It was mentioned many times in the press conference yesterday by Caroline Levitt as well.
so is it possible, Vinny, that he started out with a different opinion and that he has since changed it, since many Republicans have now started calling for accountability with the incident?
Well, anything's possible. I'm scrolling through his post on Truth right now, so I can continue to do that and get back to you when I find
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's what this is all about, by the way, is it's seeking truth together, right? This is about fact finding. We're not supposed to come here knowing all the facts, and I'm not doing the 10 to 15 hours of research that I normally do for an event before these. I just haven't had time recently, but more importantly than that, I don't want to because then I'm feeding you the truth. I don't want to feed you the truth. I want to come to the truth together. I want us all to search for the truth together. And so we should all be being able to in our own computers. We have 40 people here. I think 42. So that's the secret to life, the universe, and everything. For those that haven't read Douglas Adams, it's a good book. Life, the universe, and the secret to life, life, the universe, and everything. So, uh, I'm blanking on the name. So, but anyway, let's get to Sean. We have three hands up. So thank you, Vinny, for doing some seeking together with us.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Thank you. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is killing me. Um, I love that book too.
Oh yeah, me too.
Um, Sean, uh,
Great,
so what do you think
great.
is the official federal opinion if you don't agree that the federal narrative was that Pretti was a danger to the federal agents?
Well, I think it's factual that Kristi Noem came out and said what she said, which I think is incredibly reckless. It doesn't seem to be accurate to what the video has shown at all like that. But I do think you're right. They are pushing out the idea that since he brought a gun to a protest, he was basically looking for trouble, is the way they're putting it. It's not my opinion. I don't think that's the case.
But
And from what it looks like, go ahead.
that's a
I was
different
going
thing,
to say,
Sean.
I think they are officially going to say that the agents were in fear for their life because a gun show off. And the gun that we had, the P320, no misfiring. In fact, recalls on these. And there is some video footage that seems to indicate that when the officer pulled the gun off of him, it did look like it fired. And I think that's what they're going to be going with. But Kristi Noem's what she's saying, it was there to massacre people and do a mass shooting. Yes, she did say that, and Trump is also pulling Bovino off, pulling ICE out and putting Pullman on, which tells me I don't think he's happy with the messaging that they're giving. So I think it's kind of somewhere it's a little more nuanced than is being put out there, Garrett.
Okay. But would you agree that the federal perspective is that Pretti was a danger to the agents?
Think that they are going yes, they are going to say that the agents were in fear for their life when they shot him.
Got it.
I
So
think that would be fair to say.
is there anyone that disputes whether or not the federal government says that Pretti was a threat to those agents? Just speak up if you disagree with that. Okay, if not, I kind of want to go on to the next set of facts. And what I'll do, I did this last time. I want to share this with people so that other people can add facts in here. Alleged facts, right? We're going to call them alleged facts. And I'm going to put it in commenter mode, and then everybody can add to this doc. I would just ask you to add to let me actually put it here, add new facts. So I'm going to go through a couple that I think are relevant to this, and then we're going to watch a video, and then we'll get into. So I think we have agreement. And then the next one is that video and eyewitness evidence basically show Pretti only holding a phone before the shooting, with no clear evidence that he brandished or fired a gun. Um, I'm going to put the poll up again for that one. And I'd be curious to know if anyone disagrees with that.
That's what the video shows?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that exactly.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
so whoops, polls, quizzes. Sorry, I'm not very good with polls. If any of the other hosts are better with polls, I have a
Garrett,
poll.
from other meetings, there's a real easy way to do polling.
I
That
just am not familiar with how to do it. I think I know
no,
how to do it now. So
no, but hear me out. You can just put the assertion in the chat, like you just posted something on the chat, and all we have to do is put thumbs up, and that's a vote right there. So if you want to, you'll get a count right away from people just putting thumbs up.
no, I really would rather use the poll. Yeah, because like otherwise it moves up when the text moves up, and there's all kinds of, we don't. Yeah, I'd rather use the poll. It's not hard. I just had to figure it out. Now
Okay.
I know how to do it, and I'll be quick with it.
So, Garrett, will you clarify the question for this
The
current
question
poll?
is that video and eyewitness evidence shows that Pretti was holding only a phone before the shooting, with no clear evidence that he brandished or fired a gun. That there was no evidence that he brandished or fired a gun before basically he was wrestled to the ground. So I don't see anyone dissenting, but I see some not sures. Not sures are fine. So I'm going to give 2 or 3 more seconds, and then give your answers, and then we will look at a video for this that shows some close-ups and stuff. So I'm going to end the poll there. Share the results. There's no dissenting, so agreement on this fact. So the other is that Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a permit. I don't know if I sh there we go. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm gonna do relaunch that poll. There you go. So does anyone dispute that Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a permit? If you do, say false. Okay. And interestingly, the NRA and other gun rights organizations have come out more or less defending Pretti, saying you should be allowed to come to a protest with a gun if you have a license to own a gun, which could be another fact. But if someone wants to dispute that one, feel free, and then we'll talk about it in more detail. Okay, so I don't see anyone disputing that, so we're gonna keep it short and then go to the video. Let's look at the video, and this is a little disturbing. So let me
Minneapolis. This is video of the incident appears to contradict government statements. NBC's Alice Barr explains what we know this morning.
Multiple videos capturing protesters react involving federal law enforcement this month. As protesters react to the multiple videos capturing the scene, the Trump administration is defending the officers. The Department of Homeland Security posting that Pretti, quote,
there are some
U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9 million.
Can you guys hear the video or no?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, great. For some reason, last week people couldn't hear the videos that I was playing, and I didn't know why. So,
Millimeter semi-automatic handgun.
When they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process. These officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives.
The videos shot from various angles show federal agents shoving someone before Pretti steps in. Pretti is then pepper sprayed in the face by an officer while holding his phone and is then wrestled to the ground. DHS said he brandished a weapon, but the videos don't appear to show that. This one does show an agent appearing to remove a gun from Pretti's back waistband seconds before the shots are fired. Local officials say Pretti had a permit to carry, and groups like the Gun Owners of America are defending his right to bear arms while protesting as top Trump officials push back.
You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple.
Pretti was an
however, if I could just put it in there, but it's okay to bring a magazines loaded to a school and start shooting school children. So some guns rights advocates want to say that you should be able to have unlimited size magazines, and clearly that hopefully we would agree that that's not okay either.
Well,
And how many times
that.
they marched at protest with their assault weapons across their chest or their back.
Yeah.
Patel
Minneapolis
including
VA
in
hospital.
Minnesota.
His parents calling him kind-hearted and deeply caring.
So this is one video. I actually really like this. One of the first ones that I got is like it shows the beginning of the whole confrontation, and I really hate that I couldn't find this quickly on where is it? Where is it? It was a Facebook one. Here it is, this one. So this one shows, it's a little bit like you got to go from the beginning. It shows from the very beginning. So there are whistles.
Oh.
So this is from someone that was very close to the incident.
Whoa. Ew. Yeah.
So you could kind of see, and I can't back up unfortunately because this is like a Facebook reel. But if anyone has that on YouTube where we can easily back up, it really seemed like there was someone, and there are a bunch of hands up. So I just want to kind of quickly interpret that as the way that I looked at that is that there was a woman that got pushed from ice, and that Pretti was kind of going to defend her, and it almost seemed like she was first stepping in to defend him in some way, and then he tried to step in to defend her, and when he stepped in to defend her, he got pepper sprayed. And then after that, they were slipping on the ice. He was falling down. They were falling over each other. And then he got pulled aside by six agents, wrestled to the ground. And it sounds like someone said that the gun might have gone off, but the my understanding is there were several seconds between when he was disarmed and when the shots were fired. So I don't think it would be accurate, although we could look and seek truth together about evidence if someone thinks that that his gun went off. But there was another picture that I have in another video that shows the particular guy that disarmed him and shows him walking away with a gun significantly before the shots came off. But anyway, Jennifer, we'd love to hear from you.
No, I was going to ask about the investigation, because, you know, Levitt said that the president wants to wait for the investigation, which he only said today after he
Right.
got so much blowback. But have they actually initiated an investigation? Because I haven't
Thank
seen
you. Thank you for asking that. So the state and local officials, as I understand it, have started investigating. But what has also happened is the federal government, and I'm curious if anyone wants to disagree with this, the federal government has blocked access to evidence to, including the crime scene after it happened, to state and local criminal investigations. It got so bad that a Trump-appointed judge had to issue an order saying that the federal government was not allowed to destroy or alter evidence. This is someone that Trump appointed
because
that
they can't be
issued this order.
trusted.
Well, that's where I would say, like, to me, those facts are not disputed. If anyone wants to dispute those facts, speak up. But let's just jump to the real question, which is, I
But have they actually said they're going to investigate? They said they weren't going to investigate goods shooting.
that's true.
And as far as I heard up till now, that they weren't going to have an investigation of this either.
Well, let's look.
I actually heard that after the call between Waltz and Trump, it looks like they're gonna allow local investigation to proceed.
Okay. Is there a way that, like, they confiscated his gun? Is there a way that they can make it look like it was fired?
I
Well,
mean,
I guess they could fire
not
it.
retroactively. Like the video is going to show the shots went off or didn't go off. And
Yeah.
actually, if you notice, there were a lot of and guys, tell me if I'm remembering this wrong, but when I first was listening to that video, there were a lot of whistles. But when it came to the point of the wrestling and the gunshots, I didn't hear a lot of whistles anymore. Am I right about that? Does anyone?
Yes. That's the way I remember it too.
Can somebody educate me as
Garrett?
to what are the whistles for?
I think they're to alert that the people around, the ICE agents are around. It's a warning sign. Garrett, if I can,
physically,
if
a phone sometimes,
Just
when a new sound comes into play that's louder or different, may supersede the whistles.
possible. Sean, go ahead.
And I found it interesting that they keep
Steve,
showing the
let's-
gun, but they've never shown the two.
Steve, let's let
Yeah, I'm
Sean.
sorry, I'm talking without
That's
raising my
okay.
hand.
Yeah. Do raise your hand, and we definitely want to hear from you. But Sean had his hand up first, so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as the gunshot going off, if you listen to it, it's one single shot that goes off first, and then it's followed by a succession of shots afterwards.
Yep.
And that's where they're alleging that there's a misfire with the gun. And it's not when it wasn't in Pretty's hand. It looks like it's when the agent first pulls the pistol off, and it's within, I think, the first second. He's running away, and it is when the first shot seems to go off. And I welcome people to look up SIG P320. This is the gun that Pretti had, and if you look up misfire, you'll see there's all sorts of things recently where they're pulling them out of police departments, out of military, because these things go off. The safety doesn't work very well, and there's been a lot of misfires with them. That's what they're alleging may have spooked the agents into thinking that he had fired his weapon.
Got it.
Very, very alleged right now, but we'll see what the investigation turns out.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing that. And I do think actually that for me, that opens my mind, quite frankly, to saying, yeah, like this may not be as clear cut as it looked on the video the first time I saw it, because when I first looked at the video, I was like, this guy's wrestled to the ground by 6 people. But if you're on the ground being wrestled and he just got tear gas, so like he just got pepper sprayed in the face, it's really hard for me to imagine that he could do too much to defend himself. But maybe someone with muscle memory and a gun, like they could shoot randomly in whatever direction. Now, he didn't strike me as the kind of person that would do that from what I read about his personality, but no one knew his personality then. He was just a guy that got wrestled to the ground. I guess then, but if it was a gun that could have misfired, then I do agree with you, Sean. It was one shot and then it was a succession of other shots.
I think this was a tragedy. I don't think this was intentional. I don't think he was trying to pull anything. I think some of the agents, you can hear in some of these, again, the whistling is really hard, but it does sound like people were yelling gun, gun earlier on. They might have gotten it off, and if they heard the shot, someone might have freaked out, which is, I think, more pointing towards poor training, or like you say, muscle memory that caused it, versus this guy was trying to massacre everybody. I think that's ridiculous.
But the guy who shot him was looking right at him, and he saw that he didn't have a gun.
I mean, that was a big mass of people, 6 people wrestling
There
around.
weren't
I don't
that
think it
many
was
around
exactly
him
clear.
when he was shooting. There weren't. They were backing off, and he was just standing there looking at this guy on the ground. Obviously,
the gun was already taken away.
I don't think it was probably clear to the agents in the moment what was going on. It's way too many people
dark,
wrestling
it was
around.
light out. I don't.
Let's put that as an alleged fact. Let's say, should it have been clear? And let's remember what this scene looked like.
In the moment, it was
in the
confusing.
moment,
I had to watch it like 6 times.
It's
fallout over the.
Let's just look at it again with the
pepper sprayed in the face by an officer while holding his phone and is then wrestled to the ground. DHS said he brandished a weapon, but the videos don't appear to show that.
Even right there, right? You have 3 guys wrestling him to the ground, and then later it becomes 2 more guys. I do have to say, look, those who come to our events regularly know that I don't side with Trump, and I'm not siding with him here. But I will say it was very crowded. I could understand someone, if there was, I could understand someone not knowing whether or not the gun was taken away. And if a shot went off by accident, I could also understand people saying, I'm about to get shot, and oh my God, I need to shoot. And I did see another video, and I didn't get this one in the list, but was of ICE agents coming and saying, wasn't there a gun? Where was the gun? And they were searching for the gun after the whole thing had cooled down. And one of the agents had the gun. We know that now, but I think that the other agents were just not aware of what was going on. So I think that's a very real possibility. I would withhold judgment until, but anyway, let me let Vinny go.
Thing. So, I don't think these ICE agents went out there that day and said, hey, I'm going to murder a agitator or protester or whatever you want to call them. That's the last thing they want to deal with. They have to deal with the emotions of that. They have to deal with the legal aspects of that. Their family has to deal with it. And I would suspect that's the last thing they want to do when they go to work that day is kill somebody. I tend to agree with Sean for the most part, based on, a lot of people who know that gun, and that I think, there's no evidence of this, and they'll do forensics on the gun, that the ICE agent took that gun, removed it, it went off by accident. I saw some demonstrations. Somebody was demonstrating on, I can't remember, it was maybe X, how that gun is easily accidentally discharged, and has a reputation for that. So, we did hear somebody yell "gun, gun, gun." Why they said that, I don't know. That's going to be all determined when these people come in and they give testimony and sign affidavits and the body
Well,
camera.
that's not a mystery, Vinny. Like, they did find a gun, and so yelling "gun" when you find a gun is very logical, right? Like, that's
Right.
not a
Yeah,
mystery.
but Garrett, may I just,
Please go ahead, Vinny.
based on videos and all that, there was absolutely no way where he would have had a chance to even reach for his gun. I mean, he was he was pushed to the ground with peppered and all that like instantly. And I
Right.
mean, you never noticed that he even had a chance to reach for his gun, which was in a pouch. It was in a holder, or what do you call it, like a pouch. Anyway,
Holster. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
holster.
I think that's pretty clear that he didn't have the gun. He probably didn't reach for the gun, at least that we can see in those videos. Based on the videos, it looks like the ICE officer removed the gun from him. We don't know who said "gun, gun" or why they said "gun, gun," but my suspicions are, again, and I agree with Sean, that I think that gun, the officer took it, he handled it, and the way I've seen from some of the demonstrations on accidental discharge of that gun, I think, it's just my opinion, that it probably went off, they heard it, and they started shooting. That's my general opinion.
So I want to say, Vinny, last week we had a woman who's a regular, actually not a super regular, but she's come back a reasonable number of times, and I hope, kind of sad to not see her here today, even though I feel like she probably spoke more than she needed to. I value her diverse opinion. And she basically said that killing Renee Good should be looked at as a good thing, to serve as a warning to anyone who would defend illegal immigrants. And I have to question you, Vinny, about whether or not these ICE agents would really not want to kill someone if they come from her perspective. She's not an ICE agent, right? She's just,
well, that's good.
Yeah, well, it is good, but ICE agents, like, people know what they're getting into. They're going to basically be violent against potentially immigrants, but sometimes even U.S. citizens when they need to. And so I would argue that ICE agents are probably more extreme than M is. So I don't know. I hope that ICE agents don't want to kill someone, but I don't know that I can say that they really don't. That said, Paul, and by the way,
that would be speculation.
It is speculation. I agree. Yeah, it's not. I'm not trying to assert that as a defensible fact of objective truth. I'm just saying that I could see an argument to be made for that. But
you make the same argument for local police officers and state police officers as well, or any federal agent. Then that whole argument can maybe bring
because
against law enforcement.
like the same police officers aren't imprisoning people or detaining them without due process. Only ICE has done that since America's history, as far as I know.
That's
So
another story, but we'll leave it there.
I mean, no, I think it's the same story, but I do want to kind of alert people to our our Q&A and commentary. So once we get into we're getting into like the conversation portion of the evening, and so every time you raise your hand, that's to bring up a new topic, and try to keep it to under 2 minutes. Everyone's been really good about that. But then if you want to respond to what someone just said, feel free to just speak up about whatever the current topic is, whether it was a comment or a question. But each time you raise your hand, try to limit it to one comment, question, or new assertion that you want to make. And when we do that, we can have a fluid conversation amongst 40 people with no problem. So
I would like,
Garrett, in that case, I'll just jump in for that. I was just
Yeah.
going to say the assertion that, well, maybe these ICE agents just wanted to teach people a lesson and just blow a guy away and do an execution in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like kind of poisoning the well here, or not good faith about what, if that's what they wanted to do, would they do it necessarily in this way, in this clustered area with all their guys right around next to the guy? I find it a little hard to believe. Also, the idea that there is going to be no backlash, that these people aren't going to be doxxed, their identities aren't going to be known. They're not going to be dragged through public opinion. I don't know. I think most of these people are signing up because they want to enforce immigration law, and maybe they don't like illegal immigrants, maybe they're racist, maybe all that type of stuff. But are they there to start murdering people in the streets? I feel like that's a stretch.
I wasn't saying that they're there to murder people in the streets. I'm just saying that I don't think that it's fair to say that no ICE agents would that all ICE agents wake up saying if I killed someone it would be like a really horrible thing. I think that some of them would say, you know what, this is justifiable. It's the ends justifies the means, and that it would be okay. And I
That's how
know,
I
and
feel.
the reason I
Innocent until proven guilty.
just let me finish,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah.
The reason I gave the example of M is because she very much did say that about Renee Good, who was defenseless and clearly didn't pose any significant threat to the guy. If you watched that video last week, she clearly didn't pose any threat to the guy. And the chances are good that he didn't get hit, and the chances are good he never had internal bleeding, because if he did, there would be actual evidence showing that he did. Right now, there's just two anonymous people who claimed that he had internal bleeding. So, look, all I'm saying is that I don't think we can assume, just like I can't assume that every ICE agent is out there to go kill people, and I don't think they are, by the way. Just like I can't assume that, we also can't assume no ICE agent would be, oh, every ICE agent would dislike killing someone, right? We can't assume either way. We have to keep judgment open and say, look, let's see what happens and what they do. And remember, Sean, I just went in defense of your position here. And so, yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe these guys are all cannibals and they go home and try and eat people.
Sean, please, let's keep it reasonable.
I know, but
Sean,
I mean,
Sean,
where are you
I literally just agreed with you about the whole situation, and you're like,
fair
now
enough. I'll get fair enough.
on.
I just don't see the evidence for it, but okay, I'll give you that. Okay,
you don't see the evidence for me agreeing with you, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Yeah, the operation is just a disaster. There's no leadership. There's no reason to put 3,000 people in this small area. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen, and they're recruiting people based on, like these
politics.
ideas of, don't you want to go get these immigrants? And look at the recruitment. It's not good.
It's not.
And there's no leadership. And the whole, whoever set this up, has created this mess.
But we know who set it up.
And the other thing is, with all the money that they're spending, they should be spending money on processing immigrants. They need more judges and more court people and more, people to process them, not just leave them, bring them to a camp and just leave them there.
That's a great point, Jennifer. We can decide to spend our money on peace or on killing, and between those two, I generally side
about
with the
having
peace.
so many of them. Well, let's just process them. Let's have a process. We don't even have
that's another thing which I want to get to, which I want to get into, like, what's so bad about having illegal immigrants in the first place that we feel like we need to give up our, rights to free speech, our right to search and seizure in order to process these illegal immigrants, like, or to even expedite, get rid of these illegal immigrants. What harm are they causing? The truth is, without illegal immigrants, you wouldn't have produce farmed. You wouldn't have people at restaurants to work at restaurants. Like,
you wouldn't have Social Security.
Well, so I want to start off by agreeing with Sean in terms of some of these speakers about that. Probably, the majority of ICE agents are not, signing up to do kind of nasty things to other people. And also the fact that I would also agree that in terms of following the law, as much as on a practical level, and even a lot of conservatives admit on a practical level, yes, the country's economy does depend in part on illegal immigrants. But that said, I also agree with the conservatives in the sense that a law is a law. If you make an exception for the law just to say, well, because for practicality purposes, we can't follow it, then that also opens up a can of worms in the sense that now, I think it makes it perfectly symmetrical for conservatives to say, well, we can ignore this in law and that law because, for our practical purposes, we care about this and that. But that said, I think that what's the issues I have and a lot of people have with the ICE agents and everything like that is, one, precisely as Sean had mentioned, the principle of innocent before proven guilty. So, and for a lot of the way they're pursuing these things, they're doing it in a way that's highly unconstitutional. And they have even pursued many, citizens of the United States.
Right.
And somehow the way they're conducting is
You're starting,
unprecedented.
Charles, I agree with you 100%, but you're starting a new topic. So for that, we need to wait for your hand. But I want to go to another.
I was just gonna kind of, finish up in terms of saying, in terms of the way they're doing this and the actual effect is that a lot of that is also spectacle in a sense that people have said if they wanted to really catch, I'm not saying it's a good thing, illegal immigrants, they could go down to like Georgia, to a lot of places, to, Home Depot or something. I mean, they've done that. I'm not saying I agree with it, that there is a level of spectacle that's involved with this. It's a party about theater, a party about creating a scene that actually doesn't match. If they were serious about deporting people, they would be doing something else. So it's a very nasty kind of situation, but there's a lot of wind to it. Yeah, thanks.
I want to get back to assertion. So Sean made an assertion that the gun may have gone off like accidentally as it was taken away by an ICE agent. Accidentally as it was taken away by the ICE agent due to the fact that this gun
misfire, accidental
misfires regularly.
Yeah, could I respond to that, Garrett?
Go ahead.
Look, you said that opened your mind a bit. That doesn't open my mind at all. That's clearly not what happened. You clearly see when the first shot was fired. You would hear a shot. You don't hear it until you see the officer's arm recoil when he fires what is clearly the first shot. So there is zero chance, in my opinion, based on what I saw.
Paul, I think that's just a bald-faced assertion.
Hang on. Do you mind? May I finish, please? There is no chance whatsoever that gun went off and recoiled. The officer was the one who fired the first shot. That is what all the evidence shows.
Let's look for this. So we're gonna go through it again, and I just want everybody to try to pay careful attention to whether or not you can see who shot the first shot. I don't know if you can from this angle. If anyone can find an angle
from the sidewalk angle, if you couple that with the sound, you clearly see that the first shot was fired by the officer who was pointing the gun down at Pretti. Second thing is that this is what we call in the law a recent fabrication. Had that been true, that would have been the defense.
Garrett, can we have sound on this?
Hang on, may I finish?
I can't hear it.
Sentence, please.
Hold on, Paul.
Okay.
I'll tell you when the first shot is fired.
Yeah, we don't hear any sound.
Yeah.
This is also the wrong angle for where they're alleging
if anyone can find a better video to show that.
There's one in the chat video.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the New York Times one in the chat from Chris. Already posted.
It's pretty clear.
Let me see. Which one? New York Times?
It was posted in the chat. The New York Times video.
Can you, I can't scroll all the way back. I don't see it recently. Can you post it again?
Here, I will post it again.
Or post it directly to me.
In the video I saw, the officer was running with the gun before it went off, and the gun was in the direction.
Sprays Pretti's face. We can see Pretti is still holding his phone in one hand, while holding his other hand up to protect himself against the spray. Contrary to statements by federal officials, he's made no threatening movements towards agents. Pretti, who had a firearms permit, carries a gun holstered on his right hip, but he doesn't reach for it, and it appears agents are unaware the gun is even there. He reaches toward the protester, apparently trying to help her up, while agents begin grabbing him from behind. He tries to pull away, and again, he makes no threatening movements towards the agents. But agents pull him backwards and force him to the ground. Then shots ring out.
That did look like, hold on, let's go back to that.
Now
that did look like it was an agent that shot the first bullet.
Makes no threatening movements towards the agent.
Let me pause it on that. There's a guy with a gun drawn that was the first.
The ground.
It's clearer from another angle. It's clearer from
There's actually another video that actually has they circled the agent that actually pulled the gun.
That agent is right there. The one in
It's
gray
right in
that
there when the
shot
agent's
his
running
gun
away.
has his gun pointed
Yeah.
away into the street when the shots go off.
Yeah, the agent looks like that first shot when he's running off with it, fires
Yeah.
the first one. It's in the agent's hand. It's
Yeah.
not Pretti that shoots it, and I don't think
No,
anyone
no.
alleged that Pretti shot it.
No,
It's
no
not
one's
Pretti.
alleging that Pretti shot it.
Yeah.
It looks like the agent was shooting at Pretti. Like, I'm trying to.
There's a better video that shows that from the angle.
Send me the better video. Like, that's why. Yeah, like, send me the better video. Let me try
You
to go
watch-
back to.
You watch
big.
the
The agent running off
the
is not the
gray.
one that fires the shot.
The agent in the gray that gets his gun,
Yes.
gets
Again,
Pretty's gun,
he makes
is already
no
walking
threatening
away with the gun
movements
pointed
towards the
away
agent.
from the scene when the shots
But
go.
agents pull him backwards and force him to the ground.
One in gray on top.
Then shots ring out.
Gun's over there, and the shots are going in.
Okay, so the shot was there. I thought this guy looked like he was shooting at him, but it doesn't look like he was.
Yeah, the one in gray has Pretty's gun.
Yeah, the one in gray has Pretty's gun. So he pulled the gun away, and then the shot went off.
Yeah,
then-
they're alleging it. This is the only footage of it, really, and they're alleging it shot off into the pavement there. And if you listen to the
I'm
the
alleging
gunfire,
that the gun
it's
didn't
one
even
shot.
go off.
Guys,
But it was the agent's gun agent's gun.
I know that's what Paul's alleging.
Alleging, that's what it shows.
That's because it shows. Yeah.
Wait,
That's what it
so
shows.
hold on,
Okay.
guys. Wait, where do you?
I think
see-
I think it would be better to wait for the investigation than just go by grainy cell
John,
phone.
can we not talk over people?
Investigate what?
Just let's
have a video
hold on.
with audio.
Guys, let's look at this. Show me who the person is that, like, I'll pause it right when the gunshot goes off and then try to point to me at an agent, like point out where there's an agent that's drawing a gun, because I thought I saw
Then
one, but then I didn't.
Shots ring out.
It's just about to go out now. This guy with gray that's running away is the one that has the gun.
Right.
In his right hand.
Right there. So
yeah.
can anyone see like an agent that has a, I mean, I don't think you could see it if there was an agent shooting at him.
I will find that video. I did see there's an angle that shows it's from the side, and they actually stop it. They put circled around him, shows that he pulls up the gun and shoots.
Could you find that for us, Carl? That would be really
I've been
helpful.
trying to find it for the last 2 minutes, but I will find it.
2 minutes isn't that long.
I know. I will find it.
So Andrew says that it's all clear later on in the video. So
yeah, I think you can see it at 317. I think.
Thanks. Let me go to 317.
I found it at 229.
229. Let's try that.
Actually, for just a couple seconds right before that, maybe 220 or so.
I think there's another point.
Yeah, right there. That guy was pulling a gun.
The agents.
Watch this guy right here. This guy right here is pulling a gun.
We can't see what you're looking at.
You're not sharing your screen anymore.
Oh, I'm not.
Watching the same moment.
Sorry.
Recording in progress. In progress.
So let me share my screen and then go to the. Sean, you have an echo. I'm gonna mute you. Okay.
Sorry, joining on the computer now.
No worries. It's probably a good idea. So
Garrett, would you go full screen on the bottom right with the double arrows? Thanks.
He has a gun.
Watch this guy right here. This guy in the green.
Watching the same moment from a different angle, the agent who first pepper sprayed Pretti beats him several times with the spray canister. We can see that both of Pretti's arms are pinned down by his head. This agent in gray reaches to remove Pretti's weapon from his hip. As this agent unholsters his gun, nudges the agent in gray out of the way, and fires.
Yeah. That agent definitely fired that.
That's the video that I saw.
This is it.
Just seconds before he fired, he was facing away from Pretti and focusing on an entirely different situation as he tries to spray a nearby woman with an irritant. The spray appears to malfunction, and the agent turns as he adjusts it. That's when someone yells that Pretti has a gun.
And that's the
Around
guy to
5
his
seconds
left.
After fully
The
turning
agent
his
to his
attention
left
towards
is
Pretti,
taking the gun.
the agent draws his weapon and shoots. His arm visibly recoils at the first shot.
Yep. That's it.
The firearm has clearly been removed from the scrum when the first shots are fired toward Pretti at close range. The officer who disarmed Pretti can be seen reacting to the sound of the first shot, looking back toward the skirmish.
Yep.
The shooter was standing behind Pretti and not under direct threat, contradicting statements from Homeland Security officials that he fired defensive shots. He also has a vantage point to see the gun pulled from the scene, but it's unclear if he did and whether he thought a weapon was still on Pretti. He then fires 3 more shots from behind Pretti, whose arms are down as he appears to brace himself against the pavement. In one hand, he still holds his phone, and in his other, his glasses. The agent in gray who removed Pretti's gun carries it across the street. Pretti is disarmed and falling to the ground. But the agent who first pepper sprayed Pretti and later beat him with a canister also pulls out his gun. From a distance, despite the fact that Pretti is lying motionless on the ground, these 2 agents fire 6 more shots. Neither is under threat.
Unbelievable.
In total, the agents fire 10 shots in 5 seconds. After the shooting, an agent kneeling next to Pretti's body asks where the gun is. Not the gun. Not the gun. Showing that not all of the officers seemed to know the weapon had been removed. Agents appear to begin giving medical.
Right.
About 31 seconds elapsed from the time agents first physically engaged Pretti to the moment the last shot was fired.
That suggests miscommunication, like the guy who took the gun away and then they didn't realize that he took the gun away, and so somebody yelled gun and then they start shooting.
Yeah, I think he's the one that yelled gun, and they didn't know that the gun was out of play.
You can hear it.
Yep. So let's try to make some assertions here. So I would argue the assertion that the gun went off accidentally is not true from what we just saw.
Yeah.
If you want, Garrett, I posted the alleged video that shows where the gun would have been going off or where people are saying it.
Are you saying there's video of the gun discharging?
Yeah, it's pretty blurry.
Okay. Well, let's
So,
look at
it's in the chat. It's
I'm posting.
and it's right here. I think it goes in slow motion afterwards. It's as the guy's going.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And after that, I posted an example of how this particular gun misfires.
Right.
Where is the point where it goes off?
Just watch the video. If we can blow it up, maybe.
Yeah.
Let me try to.
It's not that. I mean, yeah, it's from a distance, and the guy's in motion.
But it looked like a distance.
You can see some kind of like.
Can you go
see discharge? You sometimes get. You don't always get a muzzle flash.
Yeah, but you get it.
It's not the best in the world.
It's a little hard to judge, but like,
especially if you want
to be clear. The thing is,
why
Sean,
did why did he look backwards when he heard a shot, but the officer that we think made the first shot never looked toward him?
Right.
He always looked down.
Yeah, if he felt the gun go off, why was he looking backwards? But more importantly, we saw a very clear video of an agent that was on the side that pulled his gun and fired. And we know that, according to the timeline of that video, that was the first shot fired. So even if this did go off, even if this did go off,
are glasses. This photo is showing glasses. So I don't know what we're talking about.
This is supposed to be the gun this is the guy that took the gun.
No, it's glasses. He had glasses in his hands and the phone.
No. This isn't Pretti. This isn't Pretti.
He
this
still had
agent.
those in his hands.
Oh, this isn't Pretti. This is the agent. This is a gun.
The agent that took the gun away.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
this
I
is the
see.
agent. It's not. No one is saying Pretti fired the weapon.
All right.
Well,
And I haven't fired a 9mm, but isn't there a little kickback at least?
even
Yeah,
if there
there's
was,
no
they would
kickback
know.
there.
You can
If
take a
you
look.
weren't holding it
Uh,
prepared for the kickback, you would see a jolt if it just misfired, wouldn't
Well,
you?
not only
well,
that,
well,
but
I
they
can.
would know that it was coming
I'd be
from the
happy for you
street,
to
not
take a
from
look.
Pretti.
I'd be happy for you to take a look at the second video, which demonstrates how the misfire happens with this particular weapon, and you can judge for how much of a kick there is,
But
which there isn't much.
here's the question, Sean. We just watched before that a video that very clearly showed the first agent firing the shot before this even happened.
Yeah, I saw that, and it looks like something did happen there. I'm open for this to be investigated all the way. This to me
Right.
is
I was
not
just
it's
saying,
not a clear cut. I think this is
And
pretty
unbiased.
messy.
if I could remind everyone that we're just basically just speculating for
Yeah,
hours and hours, and this
yes.
is
If I could remind everyone that we are not the judge and jury here, and no one's going to go to jail for our opinions. We're just expressing our opinions, and the whole purpose of this event is for us to each express our opinions. But I think,
Garrett, would you mind taking a click on the other link I posted just on how this gun misfires? It's the second one I posted. It says example of how the misfire happens in the weapon.
that's earlier one for my history because someone commented on the other one.
Could I ask a couple questions
You
about
can turn
that?
the video on this guy.
Could I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Let's assume that this weapon can misfire. We have agents who were closer to the sidewalk and closer to Pretti, and the gun that had been removed from Pretti was toward the street. Had that misfired, they would have known by sound that it was closer to the street and away from Pretti. It was not in the direction of Pretti. They would have known that. And if that had happened and they were worried about gunshot coming from that direction, they would have turned around and perhaps fired in that direction. That is not what they did. The officer shot Pretti in the back when he was completely defenseless and not a threat to anybody.
Paul,
I think we have to take all the facts into account.
Yep, I think you are using motivated reasoning right now.
Based on what? I'm giving
You want them to be
saw.
executing this guy. You're not
No.
taking into account the
How do you
adrenaline.
know how do you know
how
what
many
I want?
whistles were going off, Paul?
Guys, please don't talk over each other.
How do you know what I want?
I think it's been very clear since you've gotten on this call that you're very angry. You've said you're angry and upset. You can't understand why anyone would think differently.
That's right, because I think a man was murdered. I saw it on video.
So
you're
guys,
motivated.
let's go. Hold on. Let's go to the argument. I think Paul said something earlier that really is ringing a bell now. If the gun did go off accidentally, the very first news report that we would have gotten is from the agent saying the gun went off in my hand, and that's what triggered all those gunshots. That's not what was said. That's not what was reported. What was reported was Pretti was a threat to everybody. But that would have been the immediate report. It would have exonerated everybody to just say, look, the gun went off in my hand. Why would the agent not have said the gun went off in my hand and that was the first shot? This was all a big tragedy. So I'm curious, Sean, why would you not to put you on the spot,
I
but
can answer that, and I don't like the answer. The answer is they were trying to cover up for a fuck up.
what do you mean?
I mean, if the gun went off when it wasn't on Pretti, when the other agent was running away because he didn't announce that he had taken the gun, and they all ended up shooting the guy 10 times, that is a major mess up. And so instead of admitting that they messed up and they killed this guy on accident, they're saying that Pretti was a danger, and this was unavoidable. It's a screw up and a cover up.
So let's put the two assertions here. So assertion number one.
Yeah.
Number one is that gun goes off accidentally. And then as it was taken away by the ICE agent, let's just say this, and it may have spooked other ICE agents. So
which there's also a lot of noise going on. There's whistles, there's people screaming. They're all wearing masks, and everyone complains about the masks, so their ears aren't exactly open.
Happened. One, would the federal government lie about it and make Pretti out out to be the bad guy,
right?
even with lots of video evidence.
I think it's
Or
clear that
two,
they made him out to be the bad guy.
well, yes, but if this was the case, would they have done it? The point is that if the gun had disparaged, if the gun had gone off accidentally, the federal government wouldn't have had a big screw up because they would have said, "Look, this was a tragedy. The gun went off accidentally, and so these agents thought their life was in danger, and so they fired." That wouldn't have been a big screw up. That
You
would have
don't think
been a
they would be
tragedy.
held? You don't think they'd be held accountable for
No,
killing the
no,
guy in
no
this
way,
situation?
no way,
I mean, look
no
what
way.
just happened with Renee Good. This has been
That
like
that was not what happened with Renee Good. Let's not switch the topic, but that was not
well,
what happened with Renee Good.
I don't want to switch the topic, but it's something that very recently happened that was taking the headlines, right? And there was
Let's not conflate
life-threatening
that.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
let's stick to one topic. We
Sure.
want to so all I'm saying is, and let's take a poll here and just say if the gun went off accidentally, do we think that the federal government would be more likely to lie about it and make Pretti out to be the bad guy, or would they just say, you know what, this was a tragedy, the gun went off accidentally, the agent told us that, and come clean and said, you know, these agents feared for their life because a gunshot went off, they didn't know who had the gun, but they figured if a gunshot went off, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't the agent, so all the agents then fired on the guy. Like between those two, like which one? And let's do a quick poll where let's say true is that the federal government would lie and make Pretti out to be the bad guy, even if it was clearly an accident and the ICE agent admitted that it was an accident. So let's say true is that. I'm curious to hear what our oh, and now my poll.
True is which one, Garrett?
True says that the federal government would lie, and you know if the gun went off accidentally and the ICE agent said, you know, this gun went off accidentally, and he tells his superiors the gun went off accidentally, it was the first shot fired, and my fellow agents feared for their lives because my gun went off in my hand, accidentally disparaged, or whatever you said, went off.
Discharged. Yeah.
Discharged, thank you. Clearly, I don't shoot guns very often, although I'm not a bad shot when I did shoot one. Um, so, um, so True says that that's what happened, that it was an accidental shot. The ICE agent reported that to his superiors, and that the federal government would decide in that situation to lie about it and make Pretti out to be the aggressor in spite of all the video evidence. Now,
Right.
False says that if that did happen, if the ICE agent reported that it would have been more likely that the federal government would have been honest about it and come up with, you know, said we had a good excuse for doing this. So I'm going to launch that poll.
If they were reasonable.
Well,
But
that's the
they're
question
coming
is,
at
do
it
we
from
think
they're coming at it from two different angles because they're trying to impress everybody with their power and agility and their might and everything. And if they admit they're screwing up, then
Right.
that's bad PRs.
Well, it
Yeah.
would be bad
We
PR if
screwed
they were
up.
admitting they
We
were
killed the
screwing
guy.
up. But
We killed the guy accidentally. Yeah.
I would argue if they killed him accidentally, that's not screwing up. So this is pretty evenly split. So I think we should talk more about this. Like, let's go into the let's go into the position of your side, Sean, because it's the one that I'm having trouble seeing the most, if it's okay, is like why do you think the federal government, when they have a perfectly good reason to say this was a tragedy and nothing really bad happened, why would they lie and make the situation worse?
Well, I'd say because right now there's a magnifying glass on Minneapolis right now. This is the top story for everybody. And right now, the government is in the hot seat for should they be there? Is this good? Are they Gestapo? Are they untrained? Are they out there? Are they recklessly hurting people? And the idea that they screwed up and shot this guy 10 times when the gun wasn't even on the guy looks like a major PR nightmare. And there's probably disciplinary action that's going to go with the agents who did it, who didn't communicate effectively, did not follow procedure or protocol, and someone's dead. That's why.
We've already seen
and I think everyone's already said on here that the administration is willing to lie to save face or to look better. So that shouldn't surprise anybody.
No, but why? Let's stay with the one point that Garrett is raising. Why is it better that they say, yeah, we shot him and there's no first gunshot. Why isn't it better that at least there's a gunshot before any agent fires? It
Right.
seems to me that's clearly better for to defend the case.
Yeah, if you're under a microscope, that would seems like and Paul is, can I say your profession, Paul?
I am a trial attorney. I've been doing it for
So
50 years.
so he knows which one's a better which one's a better case. And so, yes, I think the government is willing to lie. We know they lie on a regular basis. But I would argue if you're under the radar screen, you want any good excuse for having shot that guy. If you're under the radar screen, you want the best excuse you can get. If one was handed to you on a silver platter, which is that the gun went off accidentally and everyone thought they were getting shot at, that's a really good reason to get yourself a buy on that one incident.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's a good reason, but it's better than just saying we shot him with no provocation when he was down on the ground and defenseless.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, what's the PR nightmare look like if they admit, oops, we shot this guy unprovoked? Our bad.
It's not unprovoked because okay, it's unprovoked, but it's not it's a very forgivable excuse. Like anyone would understand that. I mean, let me ask this.
You think the protesters would go home and say,
no, we're going
ready.
to do another, hold on, Sean. We're going to do another poll. I would like to take a poll here. I'm going to say true means that you agree that if a gunshot went off, and someone yelled gun and a gun, which we know someone yelled gun, if someone yelled gun and a gunshot went off, would you forgive those agents for shooting the guy? So I'm curious. So let's say true is equal to I would forgive him. I would forgive them if if in retrospect that's what happened. And the polls on Zoom are a little
Yeah, I don't see the results. I see the poll, but no.
Yeah.
I don't see the poll yet.
Bear with me. Relaunch poll. Here we go. It was Zoom doesn't use polls very often. It's a little slow. So true is I would forgive the police officers, and false is I would not.
Would I or would the public?
Would you as an individual? Like I'm asking each person here as an individual. So people are saying false. So that's interesting. So Sean, your instinct was right. People are saying false. And you know what? I also have to I have to remember that the guy's two hands were visibly pinned to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I was an
Spaced
ICE
out with
officer and I
space.
saw the guy's two hands pinned to the ground,
Yeah.
Does that change the calculus of things?
Right.
Sure.
Face doused in pepper spray.
Yeah.
I mean, if
And he was just trying to help some lady, right?
But is any of this false, Sean?
No, that's why I'm saying the PR. Of course, people aren't going to forgive this.
But I mean, do you think that those arguments are fair, reasonable, and aligned with truth?
Which arguments?
The fact that his two hands were pinned behind his back, right?
Yeah,
For
that
the
seems
people.
accurate.
So do you think that the agents knew that his hands were pinned behind his back?
It's a little hard to tell in the scuffle, and I wouldn't blame him also in being pushed down with his eyes covered in mace, trying to defensively move or cover his face
neither
to protect himself. I wouldn't blame him for any type of movement with his hands or anything like that.
Right.
I don't see any indication that he was going for a gun, if that's what
He
you're
had his arms up the entire time
What do you mean before he was on the ground?
while he was on the ground and
While
before
he was on the ground.
Okay.
He had his
Yeah.
phone in one hand.
I do think
he was holding his other hand up. But when he was on the ground, he had both hands above his head.
I do think it was a bit chaotic with like six guys wrestling with him there in the snow.
Yeah.
And of
I
course,
agree with that.
the one reason that it was chaotic is that they attacked this guy with absolutely no reason to do it.
Can we get to that point?
Paul, we agree.
Let's
My hand has been up for a while for that point too. I think that the issue with training and the chaos.
Charlie, Earl was right before you. Let's get to you right after Earl, if that's okay. So go ahead. We're going to go to Earl, and then we'll go to Carly.
Good evening, Garrett.
How are you, Earl?
Getting kind of frustrated with the discussion here because it's total nonsense. It's speculation all the way through, speculation of the facts, speculation of the motives. a bunch of biased people from both sides are talking nonsense.
Okay,
Number
so
one,
go ahead.
you do not expect the police to be any better than the garbage public that they're working in. And I have to say about the garbage public of Minneapolis, the governor is a crook, the mayor is a crook, half the population are crooks. They've taken billions of dollars and they're flagrantly disobeying the law. And now you want the police to be perfect. I
When you
have
say
been
the police,
concerned.
Earl, I want to clarify what you mean by the police. Are you talking about the ICE agents?
Yes.
They're not from Minnesota.
It doesn't make any difference.
Okay, but
they're in Minnesota now.
criticizing people
They
from Minnesota.
they have to work in the environment that they're in with the people that they're working with. Speaking of police in general, in Toronto, the police are paid $120 a year, $120,000 a year, and they are not intensely loyal to obeying the law and protecting people. Their main job is to stay alive and collect their police pension after how many years. And that affects the way that they work. Number one, they have to be very careful that they don't break any trivial rule, because if you break a trivial rule and lose your job, there's your $120,000 a year gone, and you're not really trained to do much else.
So, Earl, I want to keep you focused on the assertions related to tonight's event. So you
Yes.
said half of Minnesota is corrupt and the governor is corrupt. I don't understand. I think your point, if I'm trying to channel your point here, I think your point is that you feel like ICE couldn't possibly do anything other than what they did in this video because the man was somehow the man and the woman that the ICE officer shoved just before Pretti tried to defend her. Those people were such horrible people that ICE couldn't have done anything but shoot them. Is that the idea?
No, I'm saying the officers themselves are corrupted by their environment. Number one, they can't do any slight thing wrong for fear of losing their job. And number two, they can't accept any risk to themselves because they have no personal motivation, no personal loyalty to the law and to righteousness. So they're only in it for themselves. So this results in two things. Number one, they can't just settle the guy down. It doesn't take 6 cops to settle one violent guy unless he's Hulk Hogan or some superhero, some super killer. It doesn't take 6 cops to settle one guy down. And number two, they shouldn't be so on edge that they are afraid and start to shoot on the theory that the guy might be dangerous to them. If you're going to be a police officer, you ought to expect some physical contact, and you ought to expect to take some risk, just like a truck driver takes a risk when he drives on a busy road. Okay, it's part of the job. So they overreacted without question, but the reason they overreacted is because of the situation that they're in. And I'll give you an example. A proper police action. One police officer would walk to the protester in the middle of the road and say, "Sir, please get off the road." And if the protester has a gun, he would say, "Sir, please hand me your gun. You can pick it up at the police station tomorrow." And the protester would say, "Yes, officer." He would walk off the road, stand on the sidewalk, blow his whistle, and the next day he would go to the police station and pick up his gun. And that's all that a police action is required to take. If you're going to get into a physical fight with a police officer, now this isn't a police action, this is a war. There's no rules in war. And you can, this kind of police, you can expect them to overreact because look at the situation you put them in and the situation they came from. So is this a disaster? Yeah. Are people at fault? Absolutely.
Trying to finish your thought, Earl.
Do you expect the police to change? Not under these conditions. Thank you. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks, Earl.
I think that's part of the issue, though, is we're viewing it as a police force when it's actually a military force.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that has a different agenda.
Yeah.
You don't give the enemy rights. You just, anybody that's uncooperative, you eliminate them.
And in fact, Stephen Miller told ICE, you are allowed to operate with impunity. You have complete immunity, right? No one should be told that they have complete immunity, not even the president, although he was told that for official actions by the Supreme Court. No one should be told they have total immunity. And theoretically, no one is immune from the law. We'll find out whether or not everybody will be held, or who will be held accountable over time. But Carly, you had your hand up patiently. I know it went down, but I have a feeling it's because of a mistake.
I honestly forgot what I was going to say. There are a lot of good points made. I was going to caution earlier about, and I think Earl also made the point, as did Paul, inserting narrative is that we are storytelling machines. We're trying to tell a story. We're not judge and jury, but we are trying to actually use our critical thinking and our reasoning skills.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we can look at video frame by frame from different angles or whatnot, fine. But asserting that this is why it went off, or this is what we really don't know until we have a true investigation. So I would encourage anybody to encourage the officials to do an actual investigation and not just whitewash things.
And I would add to that, Carly, not just do an investigation, but do an investigation where all the evidence is presented. And unfortunately, what happened in both Renee Good and in the Pretti case is the federal government blocked state and local officials from evidence, including the crime scene itself.
And they're doing that now, even with the FBI, supposedly on this one, is the latest news I heard today. That said, is that transparency, or to even Sean's point earlier about if people might do something wrong or be poorly trained or be held in a bad light or their PR is damaged, you can see how their egos and the overall narratives might be important to try to push in a certain way. The problem is when we do that, then we get this polarity in the left against right, or good against bad, or, one side against the other. So the more that we can sort of get rid of those polarities, to me, makes more sense as to finding an objective truth.
Yeah, I actually want to relaunch the poll with another assertion, which is that the federal government, the federal ICE agents are supposed to be in Minnesota for illegal immigrants, but that there are actually more illegal immigrants in Texas and Florida than there are in Minnesota. So why send them to Minnesota when there's actually like only 130,000? There's like millions in Texas, like around a million in Florida, if I remember right, and more than a million in Texas. So, does anyone dispute those statistics? And, I guess true means that that is an accurate assertion, and false means that it's not an accurate assertion.
So it's just about fact?
This is just about fact. And then the next follow-on question, Sean, which is where I expect to hear from you, is why Minnesota if this is the case?
I can probably answer that. That's probably the Nick Shirley video.
Actually, the constant narrative on Fox News is that Minnesota or Minneapolis is a sanctuary city or state. They're claiming that the mayor and the governor are not playing by the law in allowing ICE agents to do their job. And so that means police is not available, which actually emboldens the protesters. And so that's the constant narrative. They're basically saying they seem to not understand why the protesters are protesting and that they're impeding, basically, when they're not, clearly, because the only thing that Governor Walz said, or the mayor, is to just go peacefully and make sure you videotape. That's basically what they've been told to do. And so anything, if they're doing things, and I've seen like, bad behavior and illegal behavior on both sides. So clearly there's a lot of emotions going on, but that is the constant narrative that I think Trump, and this is just speculation, I think Trump is just trying to scare all the other sanctuary states.
Yeah, Garrett, if I can answer, and I agree with you, Carl, that I think there's definitely truth in the sense that it is a sanctuary state. Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis have basically said we are a sanctuary state, we're not going to deport and all that. And there was recently, the news that the fraud that was happening in the autism case, where there was that charity or the federal program that was helping poor families with autistic kids, where If anyone didn't hear about it, it was typically, I think the average year it was about $1 million went towards this, and it was like up to, I want to say $10 billion. It was a crazy amount of fraud that was exposed, and a lot of it came from the immigrant community. So I think that
That's
the
all been
surge was happening.
prosecuted and settled, though.
I'm sorry?
That's all been prosecuted and settled. That's now old news. It's not ongoing anymore.
Sure, but it's in the public narrative right now. You're asking why would they surge a bunch of people over there? Well, because there's a huge news story about immigrants doing massive fraud in that area, and Trump has said that he's going to be doing ICE. I would say it's targeted. It's in an area where there's a bunch of immigration and fraud connected, and so they're making a big show of it there.
So they're going to punish the immigrants the immigrants that were guilty of fraud were punished, but now we're going to punish the other immigrants around the immigrants who were guilty of fraud because they were around them. Is that, am I hearing that right?
I think they've said that they're going after all illegal immigrants, not simply ones who are doing fraud or violent crime.
There are more in Texas and Florida, so why not go there?
Probably because right now Minnesota is very unpopular with the fraud narrative going on. You're asking why, whether you want it to make logical sense as far as just a math problem. Yeah, you can aim towards Texas.
It's not a math problem, it's a social problem. And I do want it to make logical sense. I'm expecting our government to make logical decisions. I know that's a crazy idea, but like, let's ask that question. Do we expect our government to make logical decisions?
No, I'm going with Carly's point of view that we are narrative making machines. And the story right now is that there's a bunch of immigrants who are defrauding taxpayers with billions of dollars, and Trump is going to go take care of it. The problem is, I think most of the Somali immigrants over there are actually legal. So I think this is kind of a fool's errand. But because it's also a sanctuary town and the people, there's a lot of activists out there, it's turned into a giant spectacle. And that's what we're seeing here.
But he gets his theatrics that he wanted, and now that it's backfiring, now he doesn't want it.
Yeah. Absolutely. If he goes to Texas, it's not going to be very theatrical at all.
And I don't think it's speculation as to what his motives are. He's told us what they are. It has to do with the fact that Minnesota didn't vote for him. He said it.
Which is the same. Can you put a quote in, like, from a news source?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I've seen it, but I've seen
all you have to do is look at Trump's social feeds that he posts. He's actually posting his insane thoughts at 3 a.m. while he's sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
But he also
let's
said
not speculate where he is, because let's not think about that.
He also said about Greenland. He said that about Greenland too. He said that the reason he wanted to invade Greenland is because Norway didn't give him the Nobel Peace Prize. He actually said that.
Yeah. He wrote them a letter, which was wow. But anyway, let's not go into that. Let's stay focused on the topic.
That's a 3-hour debate.
Well, I think it is, but I think it is relevant because you have to ask yourself, to what extent am I going to give this individual any credibility?
Right. And I do think you have to consider Trump's general actions. But let me go to this assertion if I can, and I'm going to put it up for vote. Is illegal immigrants are an important part of our economy, at least for farm harvesting and restaurants, and probably in other areas that I didn't look into. That it would be safer for our country to have a path to legal work permits for illegal immigrants than it is to go after them. And so I'm going to put another poll up for that, and I'd like to see what the vote is. And then I'd like to hear from the false.
Can you repeat it?
So it's on the screen as well, but illegal immigrants are an important part of our economy, at least for farm harvesting and restaurants, and not necessarily that they be illegal for that, but that those people are doing those jobs. So wouldn't it be safer for our country to have a path for legal work permits so that we can collect taxes from these illegal immigrants that we're not collecting taxes from today? Let's collect taxes from them. And then instead of going after them, quote unquote, let's give them a legal path to citizenship, since we recognize that they're an important part of our economy. So what, is that, would you argue that's true? Now I have,
is it right? Is it right, Garrett, that we exploit a class of people where we don't pay the minimum wage or give them OSHA regulations?
This is what I'm exactly saying. I'm saying we shouldn't exploit them. I'm saying we should give them a legal path to citizenship. and not to citizenship, but a legal path to work permits, meaning that they're not exploited. They're subject to the laws of the country. Right
When you
now, they're
say
being exploited because they're illegal. So I'm
right, and
agreeing with you.
when
We
you say
shouldn't
they're
exploit them.
when you say they're an important part to our economy, you're pointing towards the economy needing cheap labor that it
No,
works
no,
less than American
I
citizens.
clarified that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they could do the same jobs as they are being like legally being employed in the country, right? Like minimum wage is a little over $7. These
Do
guys aren't
you,
getting paid that much less than that.
do you think they're employing them? Do you think they would still employ recently made legal immigrants if they had to pay them and give them all the same workers' rights that American citizens get?
If there
Colorado
wasn't,
does.
if there wasn't, yeah, I mean there are lots of examples of people being paid like that, and if there weren't enough illegal immigrants here to get exploited, they wouldn't have a choice. They would have to pay them, correctly, which I would argue is a good thing. We should stop exploiting these people.
I agree. We should stop exploiting. We should stop incentivizing the economy to exploit people.
The
We're
economy
in
doesn't
agreement there.
incentivize.
We're in agreement there.
It doesn't have sentience, right? The free markets are supposed to be always correct, right? But this is where legislation comes in to try to make things more fair. That's the whole point of laws. But I want to hear from the three people who, and I'm going to end the poll and share it. I want to hear from the three people who say false, that this is not true. Why is this not true for folks that don't think it's not?
What's the assertion again?
The assertion is that illegal immigrants, the people who are currently illegal immigrants, are an important part of our economy, at least for farm harvesting and restaurants, if not the broader economy, and that it would be safer and better for our country to have a path to legal work permits for the people who are currently illegal immigrants rather than going after them, like violently.
Well, you already know why I voted the way I voted. I
No,
think
I don't.
I think incentivizing the exploitation of these type of people is not good for our economy.
But
Mr. Willikers, where our low prices come from.
This is actually I'm definitely not understanding you, Sean, because the exploitation is happening now, right? While they're
Right.
illegal immigrants. So if we had a path to legal work permits, there would not be exploitation anymore. They would be legal workers subject to minimum wage.
So so is the poll really, should we make them all citizens?
Not
so that
citizens, but at least have legal work permits.
And in that world, will they make a minimum wage and will they have OSHA regulations and all those type of benefits?
Yeah.
Do I think they will still be valued in the same way, or will they still be hired in the same numbers? No, I don't think. I think they're being hired the way they are because of the exploitation, the cheap labor.
Great.
They're not doing it out of charity. They're not doing it because they like people who speak English as a second language.
Also, I've always wondered, why are employers allowed to hire?
They shouldn't
They're not
be.
allowed. They're not
They
allowed.
should
It's
be. They
illegal.
should
You
be
get caught doing it,
prosecuted
you get in
for
a
it.
lot of trouble.
But
So let me
clearly-
I'm doing some research in ChatGPT here. But let me let some hands up go. Earl, do you want to go first? You had your hand up first.
Thank you.
Yep.
First of all, the fraud included is estimated at 9 billion, which includes lots of federal money and lots of innocent, decent people in Minnesota, and $1 million cash suitcases were being carried out of Minnesota to Somalia on a weekly basis. So to fund a civil war there, apparently. So that kind of makes it really big federal business. And the federal government has to clean up the fraud in Minnesota because the governor and the mayor are not doing it. So, I mean, they're under investigation. I saw that videos of fake nursery schools that were still operating in January of this year. So the fraud is undergoing at present, as long as we know. And one of the ways to prevent it is to move the people who are committing it. And illegal immigrants are just as valid in Minnesota as in Texas. So which way you go doesn't matter. As for every person who lives in the United States should be an American citizen and should have a chance at a decent job at American wages. And if you bring in people from the outside who will work for less, if you endorse that with the group of people you're dealing with now, you're going to get 1 billion people who will want to come in next year. You have to remember there's 8 billion people in the world who aren't Americans, and a lot of them would like to be. So how many billion are you going to let in? And how many billion are you going to keep out? If you're going to let 7 billion in, it means you have to keep 1 billion out. And you have to enforce the laws. The same laws that you have now are still going to have to be enforced one way or another. You got to make up your mind. Before you talk about immigration policy, give me a solid number. How many billion new people?
Before the early 1900s, I'll give you a solid number. Before the early 1900s, there was no immigration limit in the U.S. None.
There was
as many
wasn't
people
needed.
were allowed to come as wanted to.
No, they weren't.
They were. Can you cite
They
an
weren't
immigration
because
law
they
before
didn't have
1900?
airplanes. They didn't have jet planes. They had to fly on sailing ships. And
Okay.
when they got to the United
Earl,
States,
calm down,
okay,
Earl.
let me
Calm down.
finish. When they got to the United
Earl,
States,
we moderate for keeping everybody calm. You're getting very emotional. I
okay,
would
I will
recommend
be
you calm
very
down before
calm.
you respond.
Thank you, Garrett. I will be very calm. In the past, when people came to the United States, American industries commonly hired 10,000 people at a time because all of the work was done by hand, and they needed immigrants with strong backs and strong arms. That is not the case today. Today, there are very few jobs available unless you're in IT or computer technology of some kind. So the number, and with AI, the question is there going to be enough jobs in the United States to keep even the lawyers employed? So you do not need a lot of low-grade third world people coming into the United States to work in restaurants. You have more labor in the United States than you can use, and everybody who works in the United States should be paid honest American wages. Thank you, Garrett.
So, Earl, the Minnesota Attorney General Office also brought its own indictment, so it was inaccurate for you to say that the state was not complicit in cracking down on the Somali fraud case. Yes, the Department of Justice and FBI were involved. That's part of their job, but state officials were involved as well. So, just a quick fact check there. Second of all, I looked up what would happen if labor market effects and low end wages would rise modestly, not a ton. Wage theft and abuse would fall sharply. So it's not like, right now we already have these people doing these jobs. It's just that they're being abused. And wages would only go up a little bit, and you would end up having the workers being abused less often because they would be subject to legal rights as workers. As far
But those
as
jobs
how
should go
many,
to Americans.
well, Americans don't want to do those jobs. I
They
hate
will
to
if
tell
you
you,
pay
but
them enough.
there was well, that's actually not
Offer
quite the case.
$60 an hour
So
and see the
please,
lineup
Earl,
around the
I
block.
let you talk when it was your turn. So they did an experiment in a while back where they said we don't want immigrants to be doing farm work. So what they did is they took all the jocks from high school and they said in the summer we want you to work on the farms and do farm labor. And there are stories written about this from people who were a part of this program. And these high school students who were like the sports stars of their high schools were like, this work is too hard. I am not doing it. Forget it. I'm done with this. And they quit, like almost all of them quit very quickly. And it was a complete and miserable failure because they wouldn't do the work that immigrants were doing. And these were the toughest of the tough. And that was the whole idea, to get the toughest of the tough young men, the young strapping lads. And yet they weren't tough enough to do what immigrants are doing today to get you and I vegetables in the grocery store.
What was their alternative? How much were you offering to pay them?
I think you could go back and look into that, Earl. So that's a good thing for you to fact check because you won't believe me if I tell you. So Rami, go ahead.
Why do we have the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, go ahead and try to answer your own question, Rami.
I would say it's to set a tone and to achieve particular ends that aren't necessarily in our own interests.
So the Department of Homeland Security is something that the FBI and CIA were always separated because the whole idea of the FBI is, for those that don't know, the FBI is basically who investigates Americans, and the CIA is our clandestine, our intelligence and clandestine operations internationally. And the government always knew that it did all kinds of very unethical things through the CIA, and they wanted to be really sure that type of stuff didn't happen to American citizens. Well, guess what? When 9/11 happened, the government said, you know what? We want to be able to do those things that we do to other countries to American citizens. So we're going to combine these two under one organization called the Department of Homeland Security. So we all should have been very worried. And quite frankly, I was very upset about that.
Hell
But
yeah.
I didn't have much of a voice then, right? And I still don't have much of a voice. But each of us, can be concerned about it. And I think we should be concerned about the fact that, first of all, we should be concerned about the fact that the CIA does this internationally at all, because guess what? It's going to come back to haunt us, and it already has. For those that don't know the story about why those 9/11 people came after us, I highly recommend watching the movie Charlie Wilson's War. It gives a very good explanation in a modern movie that's actually fun to watch. I learned that history before I saw the movie, but anyway, I'm digressing. But all I'm saying is,
Garrett, can we good faith Gary this just for a second? Because I don't think the intention of the Department of Homeland Security was so that we could do horrible things to Americans. I think it was because of the massive intelligence problem that led to 9/11 being able to happen, with the intelligence agencies not being able to talk to each other, and the separation there. I think there was some good faith intention to prevent another big terrorist attack, and part of the side effects of that included things like rendition, the what's it called, where you get to spy on people, the PRISM stuff that
which violates our Fourth Amendment. Yep.
I agree, but as good faith, I'm going to say that Department of Homeland Security was to protect the country from like domestic terrorism and stuff like that.
I agree with you, Sean, that that's the narrative that's given. But if you look at the fact that it's been used to justify torture against U.S. citizens or against people in the U.S. in U.S. custody on U.S. soil, and you see what it's actually been used for, there's what's the saying is like, judge people for what they do, not what they say, right? What the government
know them by
says
their
is exactly
fruits.
what you're saying, but what the
Know them by
government
their
has
fruits.
actually done is a very different thing.
I would probably say there's a mixed bag. There's probably some good things they've done, and there's probably been some horrible things they've done, and probably a lot of things you and I agree with, like around Patriot Act or PRISM or rendition, any of those type of things.
Yeah.
But
I think, Sean, over a bottle of wine, you and I would probably agree on quite a bit. Although we come to different conclusions, there's probably a lot of core things that we would agree on. Stephen, you have your hand up.
Yes. Let's see. Am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm unmuted.
You are.
Yeah, I caught the tail end. I went up to see the monks today, so
good for you.
Little late tonight, but anyway, I wanted to do that. Yeah. In speaking of all of this, I think it is we're just making it very difficult with what's going on. For instance, my son, who is in Japan, tells me that he has no desire to even come back to the country. He grew up here, of course, and born here, grew up here. I think that's it. I think there are going to be people who don't want to come here because of what seems to be happening. I hope that things are mellowing a bit with the Minnesota. I hope it's mellowing a bit, and that we'll come back to some kind of reasonable. I mean, it just terribly disturbed me to see those various videos. I mean, the one that really just shocked me the most is when he's just down on his knees, Mr. Pretti, and the guy in the back of him is just firing into his head. And how many shots? 7 to 10, they say.
10 total shots. Or
10 total shots, yeah. It just makes no sense at all. I mean, if you say, and I heard it said about, well, maybe the gun went off and that scared them or something. Well, still no need for 10 shots, I don't think. So either bad training or just folks feeling after the situation with the lady that, they just had, and after what Stephen Miller said, that they just had license to do whatever they wanted to do. So hopefully, maybe Holman, although I'm doubtful about him because, it seems that a lot of stories about it, and he hasn't actually totally denied it, of taking that money from the FBI in the takeout bag, chicken. I think it was chicken or something like that bag. So I don't have an awful lot of confidence in him, although he has been with the agency for a long, long time. So I guess he's got the respect of people in there. So, but hopefully they will, wise up and, start, acting a lot more professionally.
I'm curious if anyone knows if someone has a better question, and thank you, Stephen. I do think there are a lot of people that are wondering, like, and I know people that are that used to live in the US that don't feel like it's safe to come back to the US now. I also know a lot of people and who are worried about writing text messages that are critical of the government because they're worried about whether they're going to be let back into the country, even US citizens, right? Because we did have an example of a French scientist turned away for saying negative things about Trump, and he was told that that could be considered terrorism, saying criticizing the government could be considered terrorism. And we already saw that the word terrorism was used with Renee Good, who I don't know how you can call that terrorism, but that's another story for another day. But she was called a domestic terrorist, and this Pretti, Alex Pretti was called a domestic terrorist too. And to throw these words around like they're not, that it kind of how do I say it, weakens the word terrorist because you're basically calling an average US citizen a terrorist. And my question is, does anyone know, like, if you look at that video, the very first thing that happened and the reason that Alex Pretti even got involved was this ICE agent pushes this woman with the full force of his body, over icy ground. Does anyone know why he did that?
No. And I agree with you, Garrett. I think calling these people terrorists is a huge lie, for one thing. I don't see it to be domestic terrorism at all. And it does dilute the meaning of the word.
Thanks,
They
Sean.
could do it to anybody, whichever side you're on.
Well, that's the problem is when someone who disagrees. Oh, and you know what? We're gonna first of all, Sean, can we do your presentation next week?
On Tuesday?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, I
You
think
already prepared it, right? So are you available?
yeah, I should be able to do that. So long as we don't
Awesome.
have some other
Let's go
crazy
through
event
your
happen.
assertions next week. And then the week after that, I want to go through some stuff about there was something on the Hartman report that stood up to a fact check, which basically says that um, ICE is going to have basically all the same spying capabilities that looking at social media, et cetera, and that anyone who disagrees with Trump can be considered a threat, essentially. And yeah, I mean, it's scary stuff. And, again, like I didn't believe it at first. And he even writes in the article, when this was first brought up, no one believed it. We thought it was a joke. Turns out it's not a joke. This is actually happening. And so I will go through that the week after. I want to let you go, Sean, because you put a lot of time into the presentation. But let me get to Rami. Rami, how are you? Oh, actually, Rami, if you don't mind, we're near the end, so I want to let Jason go because I don't think he's spoken yet.
Well, I spoke briefly. I just want to be clear about some of these agents are basically telling people go away, pushing them, spraying them, and then grabbing them and pulling them back into the fight, which is confusing everyone involved. And it happens within 20 seconds. You don't want that to happen to you. So I think, we can't wait for the judge and jury or, facts or, trying to figure out what happened. I mean, this is like a really serious issue. I mean, this is happening to a lot of people. I actually know people in my own family who've experienced this.
Sorry
So
to hear that,
whatever you
Jason.
think about immigration or law enforcement or whatever, this is ridiculous what's going on.
If I can,
Go ahead, Sean.
it's light topic change, but you'll probably agree with me, Garrett, maybe. Um, Kash Patel and other people coming out and saying that you can't carry a gun to a protest is actually been ruled on by the Supreme Court. You can. It's part of your Second Amendment right. You can't. Now, if he were brandishing or sticking in people's faces, different story.
Different story. I
But
agree.
you absolutely can. And I heard it put very vulgarly recently that the whole point of the Second Amendment isn't for hunting, it's to shoot the government. It's to
Yes,
protect
exactly
against the
right.
tyrannical government. So him having a magazine, extra magazines or whatever, unless he was threatening people or shooting at people, totally within his rights.
I agree 100%. And oh shoot, I lost the thought, but I want to let Rami go. Is he still here? Shoot, did we lose him? Sorry. Um, but there was something I wanted to say about, oh, there was a post on social media because I have in historically I've gotten pretty frustrated when I see things like the Sandy Hook shooting and all these school shootings, and I see the NRA continuing to say there should be no limitations on any magazine sizes or all of this stuff that could prevent the amount of harm that happens at these school shootings, and they are just so staunchly pro gun rights. I was actually, you know, pretty surprised to see the NRA come in on the side of Pretti and say this guy had a right to bear arms, and they stood against their typical party that they usually support 110%. And I there was a post on social media that said, like, I am actually agreeing with the NRA and it's 2026. I can't make sense out of any of this. So, and that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, all right, this point, I agree with the NRA. So, um, which I haven't said before, I don't think. So actually, that's not totally true because I do think everybody should have the right to bear arms for that reason, Sean. I think that it's to overthrow a tyrannical government. Now, unfortunately, most of the people that have arms and have threatened to use them for political purposes are the ones that are supporting what I believe is the tyrannical government. So there's that. But yeah.
Well, then
It's not helping the
progressives need to arm
Iranians.
up. Progressives need to arm up then. Like, let's make it
I
less
actually
lopsided.
do know liberals that are learning to fire guns right now for that very reason.
Good.
Yeah.
And I would argue you don't want to have a flintlock, pistol that can only fire one bullet
No.
second if you're actually worried about the government. If you think the Gestapo are coming, magazine capacity is not something that you should be worried about. Red flag laws, maybe.
Oh, what does a gun do against a Apache with a missile battery?
Well,
have you seen the Iraq War? The Iraq War, they did very well with an insurgency against the number one military in the country with AK-47s. They did just fine.
Well,
no, they didn't
I actually did research on Iraq, and one of the things was all these convoys of fuel, which were not very well
I
protected.
will also say, like, if you look at the casualties between American and Iraqis, like, there were very, very few American casualties compared to the Iraqi casualties. Now, I was always against that war from the very beginning because, there was no good evidence that they had weapons of mass destruction, and now we've learned that that is true. But back then, liberals and conservatives were all saber rattling and saying, George Bush told us so, and it must be true because he's got inside intel. And this is why when we
They
in
made
this
it up.
room, just let me finish real quick, sorry. And then I definitely want to hear what you have to say, Sayed. But when we say we're just a bunch of armchair, decision makers, and we have to withhold judgment until, blah blah blah. We are US citizens. We have a right to understand and make our own decisions and think for ourselves and use our critical thinking skills, and we should feel empowered to do that. And we should feel empowered because you know what? The people in government are not magic. They're not special. They're not like, in fact, I would argue most of the people here have better critical thinking skills than most of the people in like some of the highest positions in government today. Like the whole, yeah, but that's another story for another day. Syed, keep tell me what you wanted to say.
Oh, I was just going to say that they had a team B in the Pentagon that went and planted information and then coded that information back, which was all false information to make the case for the
Say that
Iraq War.
again.
They had
For
a
Iraq,
team
you
B
mean?
that actually fabricated, went and planted fake news stories and fake information all over the world, and then coded those fake stories to justify the case for the war
Interesting.
and to
What I
convince
did is
the.
I looked at Colin Powell's presentation, and Colin Powell had his
He was
evidence laid
duped.
out. What's that?
Colin Powell was duped.
Well, he was, but the fact is his evidence for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was worse than the evidence that we had in the 1950s for the Cuban Missile Crisis. And let's face it, if we have the same evidence in, the Iraq wartime as they had, if we have worse evidence in the Iraq wartime, like 50 years later, compared to the Cuban Missile Crisis, something's really wrong. So, to me, that said there was no good evidence. And yes, I'm just a
Well,
citizen. I'm just looking at this
all,
public PowerPoint
all,
by Colin Powell, but man, shouldn't like aren't the politicians looking at the same evidence? So shouldn't we be able to
all,
make up our own mind?
I didn't want to
all
relitigate
the
the Iraq
intelligence,
War.
What's
all
that?
the intelligence
I didn't want
agencies
to
of.
relitigate the Iraq War. I was only saying that citizens,
Well,
those armed citizens, were fighting Apaches and Abrams tanks with basically rifles and pistols and improvised bombs. And they
but I
and they
mean,
held
for Iraq,
and they
all,
held us back from any type of like decisive victory for 20 years.
Go ahead, Syed.
well, all the
No.
intelligence agencies all over the world, all the
Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
developed countries, they were saying that there are no weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah,
It
all
was
of our
only
allies
I
said there were
agree.
no weapons of
I'm
mass
not in
destruction.
argument against
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So Ginny, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, Garrett, could we actually talk about the incompetency in Washington as a topic in the future, please? I
Sure.
think that would be.
I am gonna I think when I talk about the topic of the Hartman report, which actually I'll actually post it here because that way people have it in advance. I may be able to get someone to put Hartman um basically this is about Trump deciding which beliefs are legal, and all of us can be basically spied on and considered illegal, having illegal beliefs, which is a pretty scary world. It's right out of, the dystopian novels that we've all read, hopefully. And if you haven't read 1984 and Brave New World, you should, because 1984 is exactly what we're living in right now. Um, Except actually, Trump took the Department of Defense and renamed it the Department of War. So now it's back again. So we kind of reversed. Um, but um, but anyway, I put it in the chat.
Hey, what do you guys think of my tweet in the chat? I posted my tweet from earlier
I
today.
didn't see it. What was it?
It was about Trump terrorizing the world,
Oh, well,
attacking
that is,
7 countries in 9 times, and then now attacking U.S. citizens. And then if this keeps up, we'll end up in Nazi Germany.
well, that's what a lot of people are comparing it to. And, I think when you have American citizens being detained, or a 5-year-old
Killed.
American citizen being sent abroad, like forcibly, like those are problems. Like, and this stuff without due process, these are things that no American should be supportive of, and we should all be complaining to our government and saying this is enough's enough. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, no, I don't think that the killing of Renee Good or Pretti is a good thing at all during these protests. That being said, the comparisons to the Gestapo and the Nazis, I think we can look at another contemporary thing right now where there were protests that were happening in Iran. And within 1 week, their military and government killed 12,000 people within a week over there. I think that is much more closer to the Gestapo. Intentionally killing
They
people,
were
not
religious
accidental.
fanatic.
They don't
They're
have
a
a
religious
democracy, right?
fanatical country.
No,
They're in an
they're a
autocracy.
dictatorship, which the
Yeah.
Nazis also were a dictatorship.
Right, but the
So I
question is,
think
Sean, the question is, at what year are we in the evolution of Nazi Germany? Because it actually took some time for Hitler to consolidate power. And what people would look at is that right now we're in this place where we're teetering on the balance of, do we still have democracy or are we an autocracy? And when you no longer have due process, and when Trump says he is the final arbiter of the law, meaning that the judiciary is irrelevant if he wants to say they're irrelevant, which he did say in an executive order. If you didn't see my event on whether Trump's trying to be a dictator or not, then you should
I'll
watch
take a
that
look
one.
at it. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, he has literally declared himself a dictator with that executive order. He
I'll
did.
take a look at that. If he
Take a
actually
look.
actually declared himself, I think you're kind of
He said
bearing
he
the
is.
assumption that we are absolutely on the track to Nazi Germany, and I think that's a
No one
dangerous
knows that.
assertion.
No one knows that
Well, no, it's not.
other than to say that there are lots of indicators and we are following a similar path to what happened in history, and there are a lot of parallels.
But I think there's a danger of if you instill in people that this is fascism, these are Nazis, it
Oh, we have
encourages
to
people
stop
to
it.
fight back. Exactly. It encourages people to treat law enforcement as if they're Nazis and fight back as if you're fighting against Hitler, which escalates the tension quite a bit. It becomes
Well,
a cycle, and I think
I think
that's dangerous.
if you ignore the fact that our rights are being taken away day by day, then that's more dangerous than victimizing the law enforcement who are the ones that are enforcing our rights being taken away day by day. If we literally, like
So, Garrett, I agree with you, but George W. Bush did the Patriot Act. Obama was there under Snowden. I mean, rights were being taken away. Should I have gone out and, started fighting federal agents because of this?
no one's saying it right now, no one is saying to fight federal agents. And in
Okay.
fact, if you looked at what Pretti was doing, he was not fighting federal agents. He was
I
defending a poor
didn't say
woman
he
that
was.
just got pushed with the full body force of an ICE
I
agent, which there has been no explanation given for, and there should have been one. Like,
Didn't
why
say
was that
he
I
woman
think in
pushed?
the next
didn't say he
election,
was. Didn't say
I
he
think in the
was.
next
But there are a
Sean,
lot
can
of
we
people.
let other people talk?
We are 5 minutes after 9, so
Okay.
let me let Syed go, and then Stephen, and then we're going to close out.
I think if the Republicans lose at every level of government massively in the election in this year, then they'll teach them a lesson and they will correct their course themselves.
I hope that that is true. And that's what I think, Sean, the awareness of us having our rights taken away should result in. Now, mind you, I don't like having a two-party system. And so I wish that there were more alternatives to vote for than just Democrats and Republicans, but that's another story for another day. I have a solution for that, but not the money to implement it yet. So,
We
Stephen,
should have a parliamentary system, definitely.
there's another way, but Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, another novel that folks might want to read is Sinclair Lewis's It Can't Happen Here, written in the early 40s and kind of playing off of the growth of fascism in Italy and in Nazi Germany, but it takes place here in the United States. I read it right after Trump was elected in 2016, so it's well worth reading. The other thing on the fraud, very quickly, these were not-for-profit boards for the most part. They had boards. The boards are supposed to be, accountable. It's a very difficult thing. I served on a governmental board where we were using federal funds, and federal funds were being, misused. And maybe on another night with a little bit more time, I can speak of that experience. But it's a very difficult thing, federal funds and the programs, and there's fraud all over the country. It's not just in Minnesota.
Thanks, Stephen. I think the title says it all is it can't happen here, and here we are, and it's happening here. And I think we need to be cognizant of that. And we need to vote our conscience, and we do need to make up our minds about whether or not what's happening is fair. Because I think all of us, and I think Sean would agree, all my Trump supporter friends would agree that seeking truth and fairness is important, and that we have united, and those are the values of the Freethinker Institute, is seeking truth and fairness. Now, seeking truth together is what we did tonight, and I want to thank all of you for being a part of it, and for the diverse opinions, and at least hearing each other out, which is super important. I honestly felt like it went much better this week than it did last week, so I think that's a credit to all of you, and thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you back next week. Sean is going to. Sean, can you say your assertion that you're going to try to defend next week?
Sure. So we practiced this in one of our Socratic dialogue series. So I'm making a claim following the format that Garrett and I have agreed with ahead of time. And my claim is it's pro-Trump, and it's that Trump is the bulwark against the critical social justice movement in America. And I will try and make that point and invite dialogue and questions.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Sean, for presenting next week. And I hope everybody has a great week. And I have to put this young lady and her sister to
Good
bed.
night, beautiful daughter. Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Yeah, look
Thanks so
forward to
much.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.